All right. Jared Anderson is a religious humanist chaplain focusing on the intersection of human needs and religion. He has taught university courses on religion for 13 years and now ministers in prison, hospice, and university settings. He founded the Olam Institute, which fosters constructive approaches to religion and religious education. He's a friend of ours, a member of the Humanists of Utah Board of Directors, and last time I had a chance to go out with him outside these walls, we were marching in the Pride Parade, so he's a very active guy. We're very glad to have him here, and this has been the direct result of a lot of people in the community asking, what is humanism really? What does it dovetail with? What does it mean? Help me define this, and what kind of lifestyle is it? So we're honored to have him, and he's going to do a great job. Please join me in a round of applause.
Thank you for being here. My journey began when I would stump my students in world religions at Westminster College. I would ask them and say, if I want to be a professional good person, what is that? I want to get a PhD in being good. I want to work. I want to get paid for being good. What job is that? Besides grandma. Our culture has outsourced goodness to religion. Full stop. Not a philosopher, certainly not a lawyer, not a judge. Religion is not where all the good people are, but it's where the professionalization of supposed goodness is. That's why we feel so much more betrayed when the religious leader does something untoward, rather than the politician does something, which is no surprise. And what led me to, again, this path was semester after semester, students would say, I don't know how I feel about religion, but tell me more about your approach, which of course was humanism. And so I founded the Olam Institute. The elevator pitch is Heal the World Through Religion Done Better. And my goal is to move through the world as an open humanist, exactly at the level that my religious compatriots do. So I'm currently full-time hospice. I was hired as an open humanist. I am an openly humanist chaplain at the Utah State Prison, and I am in my final preparatory stages of entering the National Guard as a humanist chaplain's assistant. I cannot be a chaplain, even though I'm qualified, because the Department of Defense does not currently recognize this is funny and unconstitutional, which is funny. In 2014, we just had Jason Torpy come and talk about this. In 2014, the Department of Defense recognized humanism as a military personnel preference, but they have no chaplains. Which again is funny, depressing, because 50% of military personnel are non-religious. I would not be surprised. So I'm going to go in and go to basic training at 42. Because, bring it on. I'm ready. Okay, we need to start by establishing the fact that no one cares about humanism. No one knows what humanism is. This struck me, and that's why the original, there is some tweaking of the title tonight, because the original title that I give when I present this at the University of Utah is The Coolest Approach to Life You've Never Heard Of. Because even though we're all humans, I tell people if you're not, please talk to me after. My favorite headline was Elon Musk says aliens are already among us, he is not one of them. Sure, we believe you. When I was endorsed as a humanist chaplain, so I am a humanist minister, endorsed by the Humanist Society, it struck me by how few people were in my flock. I mean, not many people even know what humanism is, and then of those people, no one cares, and then of those people, they're usually secular humanists, and then, I mean, who are the people who want a religious humanist ceremony? Not many. I mean, I'm overstating, but not by much. So why care? Well, first, we need to be very realistic about the fact that we are all humanists. And that's not the ultimate proselyting technique. Mormons already did that. It is I will explain why all of us are humanists. A really fun question is, are babies atheists? And it gets at evil babies. It gets at this exact same question. Because, of course, babies are implicit atheists because they can't profess belief in God, evangelical belief aside. But they are not explicit atheists for the same reason, right? Because they can't profess non-belief in God. So similarly, we are all both functional and implicit humanists. So I'll talk about that for a while, and then we are going to go through some humanist groups. As you can see, humanism has been around, stated, named as such, from basically the French Revolution, and we have some groups in the late 1800s, but most of humanism has been happening in the 1900s. And I will say right now that there is no humanist group that can compete with even mediocre religion. And I am obsessed, and I want to address that in my life. And I have my own approach, of course, that we'll talk about. So the first thing that we need to talk about, and when I was endorsed as a humanist chaplain and celebrant, I made my interviewer a bit uncomfortable because I am very comfortable with religious words. Because for me, it's all human. You know, religion is just as human as anything else. Religion is a human technology. So I want to make the point that believing, belonging, attending, religious, spiritual, mystical, atheism, theism, agnosticism, these are all their own terms. So for example, with all seriousness, I call myself a devout agnostic certain theist. And by that I mean I make it a devotion to take seriously the fact that we humans can't know squat and are certain about all of it. That is how our psychology works. We can know nothing, and we are sure about it. I mean, we are sure that we're certain about everything. And so I hope that we all feel comfortable claiming whatever relationship we want to religion and belief. Most humanism is non-theist. We don't use that word, usually. Atheism is much more prevalent than humanism because it's easier. It makes an easier talking point. One of my friends complimented me and said, "I'm so glad you are excited about an ambiguous qualifier, identifier." So first we need to talk a bit about what religion is and then compare humanism to it. So this is my definition that I'm proud of. Religion is a cultural system of interconnected beliefs and rituals in the context of community with reference to transcendent reality. And one of the big problems we have legally, and this is why a humanist inmate in Nevada at federal prison was refused services. That is not okay. A humanist inmate in Nevada was not able to have humanist religious rights because currently in the 10th district, the definition of religion has supernatural in it, which is very question-begging. We need a definition of religion that includes humanism. So non-theism just means the question of God is not the most important question. You can believe in God, you can not believe in God, doesn't matter, you can still be a humanist. I own this book, God is Disappointed in You, great summary of the Bible. So humanism compared to religion. And again, we need to be serious about the fact that all religion is human. Like, even if you are a firm believer and you believe that your religion is directly revealed by God, all religion is still human because there's no unmediated access to God. So in religion, the cultural system is revealed by God. In humanism, the culture is the system. In religion, who is God, how to be right with God, what is the meaning of life. In humanism, we have these myths. I really loved this interview between Yuval Harari, who wrote *Sapiens*, and Sam Harris, one of the four atheist horsemen of the apocalypse, or four horsemen of atheism. And Sam Harris revealed his own blind spots because he said to Yuval Harari, "But religion is especially super pretend, right?" And Harari's like, "No. It's just as pretend as anything else humans do." So human rights, morality, law, consumerism, these are all myths. These are all imagined realities. Religious rituals are transformative. They connect the individual and the community. Rites of passage. We are weak on non-religious rites of passage. And most of our rites of passage, such as graduation, military, job promotions, emerge from religion. I mean, that's interesting. Community, we have a religious family and tribe. This is literally a matter of life and death. Richard Putnam wrote this book called Bowling Alone. And one of the biggest problems in our world today is the weakening of community bonds. And people are killing themselves over it. And then the transcendent reality is God. And why I call myself a certain theist is because debates about the belief in God never talk about what God is. So for me, I take very seriously that God is an idea, God that many, many people believe and then make real with their behavior. Voila, I'm a believer. So humanists believe in human rights, human worth, human potential, again, in the culture. So I'm not going to belabor this point, but I don't need to tell you in Utah that religion is strong. And the interesting thing is why is Utah so different? We can get really comfortable with the fact that close to 50% of Americans under the age of 30 are no longer religious. Again, in a humanist, we can be like, yay! But globally, this is not going to hold. In 2050, Pew did a survey. By percentage, Islam is the fastest growing religion. And by percentage, there will be fewer non-believers in 2050 than now. And with climate change and the destabilization of the global economy, is religion going to increase or decrease? It's going to increase. So the less stability there is, the more powerful religion is. Okay, so let's get into humanism now. As I said, there's implicit humanism and then explicit humanism. So we live in a humanist world. Therefore, you are all humanists, we are all humanists. Anyone who uses money is a humanist. Because liberalism, democracy, the idea of human rights, the idea of academia, the idea of money, all of these, basically humanism is a human-centered approach to life rather than a God-centered approach to life. And the modern world is a humanist religion, just a really, really bad one. And we'll talk about this. So, if not religion, then what? What's happening, this is how I define the American myth. This is the myth that is communicated in songs, in commercials, in movies, in television. It is, get a good job, because employment is our primary identity, earn a bunch of money, buy a bunch of crap, and enjoy life with someone hot. And it's not cutting it. People are dying. The consumerist religion is literally based and requires dissatisfaction. Relationship-based dissatisfaction. You are not good enough. You are not beautiful enough. You are lonely. Buy stuff. As Alain de Botton said, we'll talk about him later, we have secularized poorly. One of my favorite quotes is by Buckminster Fuller, And he said, you don't make a system obsolete by fighting it. Instead, make a system that is so good that it just phases out the existing system. That's what Elon Musk is doing with Tesla. So we have near religions such as sports, military, employment. They push the same evolutionary buttons as humanism, but mostly we're just distracted and we have our addictions of choice. And that's how we're getting through the day, most of us. Netflix binging, retail therapy, and so forth. And one of the things that has shaped my humanism is the fact that we humans are evolved to be religious. You may not like that idea, or you may. We humans and religion have co-evolved, and nothing helps with well-being as well as religion does. And that is what we need to take seriously if we're going to have a healthy humanism. So again, what is humanism? This is from the American Humanist Association. Humanism is a progressive philosophy of life that without supernaturalism affirms our ability and responsibility to lead ethical lives of personal fulfillment that aspire to the greater good of humanity. The life stance of humanism, guided by reason, inspired by compassion, and informed by experience, encourages us to live life well and fully. Who do you know who wouldn't agree with that? Okay, let's bracket without supernaturalism. I think that's unnecessarily divisive. But who would not agree with the fact that we need to live well? We need to live fully. We need to be responsible. But again, the interesting thing is that no one knows about this. One of my friends read Greg Epstein's Good Without God. He is the humanist chaplain at Harvard. And his review was interesting. He said, I agreed with everything in the book. But there was nothing in the book that made me say, I am a humanist. Interesting, isn't it? Okay, so why should we care? Why should we take all of this seriously? I submit that no aspect of culture contributes to individual and collective well-being as well as religion does. You're like, I thought this presentation was on humanism. But again, if we are going to have a healthy humanism, we need to start here. So positive psychology, PERMA, all humans seek positive emotions, engagement, relationships, meaning, and achievement. And then the most important thing that we need as a society, so because we humans are terrified individually and powerful collectively, that's why we're destroying the planet. Because we are gods with an inferiority complex. So again, nothing, as best as we can tell, Neanderthals were better than us in every way except one. Sapiens can cooperate flexibly in large numbers. And so as soon as sapiens tribes cooperated across tribes, we started destroying the world. Very successfully. Okay, so the first thing I want to talk about just briefly is that there are humanistic elements within all religions. I went to the Humanist conference in Las Vegas 2 years ago, and Dal McGowan, whom I respect tremendously, made a very provocative claim. He said, when we humanists scale the cliff of civic engagement, the tipping point of effectiveness, really influencing and changing the world, there will be millions of religious people already on the mountaintop. Because while we are fighting for humanist rights, many large religious groups are quietly removing their supernatural beliefs or de-emphasizing their supernatural beliefs. So these Christian megachurches are often self-help groups with Jesus songs. It's very, very interesting. It's not insignificant, or I don't think it's coincidence. Who did we march in front of at the Pride Parade?
Oh, who was that?
Mormons building bridges.
Mormons building bridges, yes.
The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is currently anti-homosexual. That probably will not surprise any of you. And yet, the largest group in the Pride Parade was the church, or a group from the church. Very, very interesting. So the first thing we need to remember is that there are humanistic elements within all religions. Islam, not a shining humanist example as far as women's rights and so forth go, but this is from the Quran. It says, you are condemned because you do not honor the orphan, you do not urge the feeding of the poor, you are greedy, you love wealth, you are hurting the earth. There are these humanistic, sustainable, responsible elements within all religions. Hindu humanism, this is one of the earliest scriptures in existence, the Vedas. I love this. It says, after all, who knows and who can say where creation came from? Maybe God? I don't know. So again, all religions have these humanistic elements. And this is why I am very pleased to be a humanist interfaith chaplain. And because it is most effective, to meet people where they are. And so to be able to emphasize the humanist aspects of religion, I can minister to anyone, no matter what they believe. So when we think of humanism, we're usually thinking of Greek humanism, this emphasis on human feelings, experience, and achievement. But the French Revolution, off with their heads, out with the church. The French Revolution is where modern humanism started getting established. So in 1792, they very explicitly established a worship of reason. In fact, Notre Dame, which we care about more than Africans, was reestablished as a temple of reason and philosophy. And there was liberté, égalité, fraternité, liberty, equality, family. This idea, so the French Revolution is where they try to instill this cultural humanistic force. European humanism, religion of humanity in the 1850s, Auguste Comte was one of the founders of sociology. He was very big on this. We're going to come back to John Dietrich. So many of the signers of the first Humanist Manifesto were Unitarians and Universalists. That's where you are. Which did not combine until 1961. But both Unitarians and Universalists, which are de-religionized Christianity, they are what became Unitarian Universalists. Again, so the Humanist Manifesto, this is the third one. I kind of dream of helping edit the fourth. That'd be really fun. So 2003, knowledge of the world is derived by observation, experimentation, rational analysis. Humans are an integral part of nature, the result of unguided evolutionary change. Ethical values are derived from human need and interests tested by experience. Life fulfillment emerges from individual participation in the service of human ideals. Humans are social by nature and find meaning in relationships. Working to benefit socially maximizes individual happiness. Now, this should be familiar because it hits all the notes of positive psychology and collective well-being, right? But again, on paper, this is very interesting. I commented on Facebook, a dangerous thing to do, and I saw this meme that, like, if there is no God, murder is not wrong. Gotta love that one. And I responded, in order for murder to be wrong, the only thing that needs to be real is you. The person murdered, or about to be murdered, or not murdered. As soon as there are two conscious beings, ethics is at play. I had a really great talk with my kids. And I asked them, you can imagine what my kids are like. I asked them, can you do anything unethical in a video game? Because you are the only conscious being. And we had a great discussion about how our behavior in the game can impact our behavior to other people. Okay, so that's humanism in general. Let's talk about some of the oldest and largest, specifically humanist groups. And I'll make sure that, as far as notes, I'll make sure everyone has a copy of this. So the American Ethical Union was founded in 1877. It is legally a religion. It has ethical leaders. So again, this is one of the oldest, one of the most organized. It says ethical humanism is a humanist movement focusing on human goodness and building ethical relationships with each other and the earth. As a non-theistic organization, we do not concern ourselves with the existence or non-existence of a deity, but embrace the diversity of our membership. We recognize the worth and dignity of all people. We advocate for reason, compassion, rational thinking. We want to make the world better. We train future humanist leaders and promote responsible and ethical living. Less than 10,000 members. It's old, it's great, it's well organized, it's small. Okay, Humanists UK. This was founded in about 1896. This has about 65,000 members. Again, it's interesting. I presented at a prison conference in Boston in the beginning of August. And I proposed that the LDS Church makes all groups better, including humanism. Because since the LDS Church is so strong in Utah, it's the dominant culture, all subcultures are also stronger. So that's very interesting. So we have a chance to be especially robust. One thing that you'll notice about humanism, herding cats, there's a tremendous amount of overlap. So Humanists UK used to be called the Union of Ethical Societies, related to the one we just talked about, or the British Humanist Association, from which came the American Humanist Association. And again, all of humanism has these really, really good ideas that everyone would agree with and no one joins. Thanks for being here. So again, this is the primary puzzle of humanism, I think. Quite seriously, and this is the presentation I gave at the United Nations conference, I think the most valuable resource is to give a damn. The most valuable resource is motivation, because it is so hard to capture and maintain. People care more about the Super Bowl than the fate of the earth. That is not an exaggeration. So the Humanist Society was founded in 1939 by non-theistic Quakers. Everything comes from religion. I mean, isn't this very interesting? Even humanism comes from religion. And it has worked with the American Humanist Association since 1991. And so it is through the Humanist Society that I am endorsed as a chaplain and celebrant, and I can move through the world as a minister because of my Humanist Society endorsement. Again, the military is one of the areas where it's not recognized yet, but it's just a matter of time. Okay. American Humanist Association, founded in 1941. Again, only about 20,000 members. And one thing I want you to be thinking about is why can't humanism, which I would submit is one of the best philosophies and worldviews in existence, why can't it compete with even unethical religions? Why can't it compete with even mediocre religions? The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is one of the most successful, if not the most successful, I mean Scientology is up there too, new religious movements in the world. Brings in about $14 billion a year, has probably about 5 million active members. Again, very interesting. We can compare these numbers. So again, we strive to bring about a progressive society, being good without God as an accepted and respected way to live life. So a lot of these humanist groups are advocating for the rights and the visibility of those who do not believe in traditional religion. That's great. One thing I'm most excited about is I gave a version of this presentation to the Interfaith Council at Utah Valley University, and the faculty advisor asked me if I would meet the needs of their non-religious students. So I'm very, very excited about that. So again, we need to be doing the work, but we also need to put it in perspective. So Humanists International, founded in 1952, this was the International Humanist and Ethical Union until this year. And so again, this is an umbrella group. We belong to the Humanists International. So Our members include more than 180 humanist, rationalist, secular, ethical culture, atheist, free thought organizations, more than 70 countries. We can, if we have time, we can talk about why atheism is so much more effective rhetorically than humanism. Okay. Unitarian Universalism, or the UU humanists, are the largest group of humanists in the world. Minneapolis is their hub. Their roots are the 1930s, and there are about 150,000 members in the United States. But again, isn't it interesting that even at this level, there's a struggle? And this congregation right here of Unitarian Universalists is one of the biggest in the country. It's pretty big back east too. I would estimate that over 80% of their membership here, which is probably in the 400s, Goldsmith just walked back, they're almost all over 80. Demographics, it's very, very interesting and urgent. It's nice where I can be young at 42 is as a humanist. Okay, Humanist Hub is at Harvard. I love the fact that Greg Epstein is a freaking humanist chaplain at Harvard University. That's fantastic. His background is Jewish. There are a lot of people of Jewish heritage who are humanists. So this is mostly just in the Boston area, though. Dow McGowan has the Foundation Beyond Belief. It's a humanist charity that, you know, plays in the same field, disaster relief and so forth. Humanists of Utah, you are here. This is this event. So we have monthly gatherings, and we have about 1,000 members in our Facebook group. Again, this is very, very interesting. One thing that has struck me in life, prison, working among the dying, is the only actual complement is investment. Nothing else matters. If you are not, so again, thank you for being here, because actions are the only thing that matter. So again, it's interesting. It's great that we have over 1,000 members in our Facebook group. My Sunday school group has almost 2,000. This is fantastic, but again, it's really, we need to put in perspective why it's difficult to get people places, even though you really, really try. Salt Lake Oasis, and it'll be great to go to the end of summer picnic, because this will be a time to meet and mingle with other secular people. So Salt Lake Oasis has meetings at 11 a.m. at Ember on State Street. It says, Oasis is a place for the non-religious to come together to celebrate the human experience. We understand that vibrant communities are central to human happiness and well-being. That's why we need Oasis, to provide a place for like-minded individuals and families to connect, be inspired, feel empowered. Every Sunday morning, we offer you the chance to get together to discuss real-world principles supported by evidence and free thought, not scripture or revelation. Also, we take care of your kids. So Humanists of Utah and humanists in general is not striving to be a religion replacement. Again, UU humanists are. This is kind of like a book group. We're meeting, we feel supported. But I really appreciate this vision. Now, the Sunday Assembly was literally founded by comedians. I kid you not. It was, I think it's like 2016. Live better, help often, wonder more. Really great, catchy. The Sunday Assembly is a secular congregation that celebrates life. Live better, help often, wonder more. Our mission to help everyone find and fulfill their potential. Our vision, a secular congregation in every town, city, and village that wants one. We have one in Salt Lake. You will meet them at the picnic. Now, the School of Life has taken a different approach. Alain de Botton is the one who founded it. And this TED Talk, Atheism 2.0, is fantastic. I recommended it. And what he's doing is he is focusing on really high quality content. There's a YouTube video about why we care about Taylor Swift's legs. This is fantastic. He has books about love and dating and grieving and life and death. He has bookmarks. He has a store. He has meetings. You have to be in London to actually attend. But again, he has very, very strong online content. And I think that is one of his strengths. There is the Secular Student Alliance. We have one of the largest chapters in the country is at Utah State University. I told my son to look it up. I also really loved when he called missionary work a design flaw. And then I reminded him that it's to convert the missionaries. And he's like, oh, that's a good point. There are branches of the Secular Student Alliance, even at East High, and I think a middle school here. So I want to finish up. You know that I have a way to fix all these things, right? I mean, otherwise I wouldn't be here. So I'm going to submit a TEDx proposal at the Marmalade branch. And my epiphany in 2013 was that we don't need a new religion, so I founded one. And the thing that struck me is we don't need a new religion. What we need to do is take things people already care about. They are already giving money to. They are already naming their kids after these things. And we need to instill the power of religion into all of these things. So I founded a nonprofit. I have trademark on this symbol. I call it the Religious Humanist logo. And so what I'm doing, this is the quote that I messed up earlier. You never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, build a new model that makes the old model obsolete. So teaching world religions year after year after year, I realized we need three things. We need to make religion better, and then we need to meet the needs of religion for two groups. We need to meet everything religion does for people who don't want religion, and then we need to provide everything religion does for people who do want something, like not religion, but something. My current model is to model a form of humanism that can compete with Islam. Because Islam is the largest, fastest, most powerful religion. I'm not saying I'm going to succeed. I won't. But the design needs to be able to do it. Do you see the difference? Like what Elon Musk did is he didn't guilt anyone into driving an electric car. He just said, I made the most sexy electric car you've ever seen, and you don't need to care about the planet. You will want to drive one. And that's the kind of humanism that we need. So what I've been doing for the past 7 years is the first thing we need to do is fix religion. I've finished that part of it. And what it is I call it religion better than true. And what this is I deeply believe that every existing religion can become so demonstrably good that it doesn't rely on its truth claims to justify its investments. Did you get that? But it also feels familiar to believers. I have had a Latter-day Saint Sunday School podcast for 7 years. 95% of my listenership is active LDS. It does not have a single Mormon truth claim in it. Because I teach social science-informed humanism translated into Mormon language, using the curriculum of the church. And they use it. And it's funny because I'm like, my hidden agenda is well-being. And no one can critique that. So then the next thing, so that's religion better than true. The next thing is a spiritual training regimen. And I'll come back to this. Eventually it'll be an app. But what all of us can do is become a religion. All of us will be better human beings, happier human beings, as we take the elements of religion and we personalize them. What music is sacred to you? What is your sacred space? Where do you recharge? It might be your bed, it might be the car, it might be your office, it might be the woods. But I own religioushumanism.org. It really tickles me that that was available when I got it. But the most ambitious thing that I've done And this is take things people care about, and I am designing cathedral-level religion. My most ambitious goal is to design a seminary in the mountains of Utah with cathedrals in it. So we'll see if I get that done before I die. But the beautiful thing is I'm already living this as a humanist chaplain. So I am going to found Life Church. Even above humanist, I'm a lifist. Like, I am devoted to life. And conscious life, because we're the ones that can do something. Besides microbes, they mess things up. Or they're amazing. So Life Church is religionized culture, education, art, and again, that jives with humanism, but this has the rigor of religion. So my God, for example, is integrity. And I'm working currently on a devotion deck. The tagline is, meet your God, learn yourself. And it's all these traditional virtues and vices that you can meditate on. Earth Church is environmentalism, outdoors culture, and so forth. And then Geek Church is religionized popular culture. So for example, it wasn't accepted, I'll try again next year. But the FanX proposal that I put together, this is Geek Church, Geekist, is can made-up stories save the world for real? You may not be aware, but geekdom is a pretty damn big deal. People memorize the languages from Lord of the Rings and Star Trek. Not only do people have Star Wars-themed weddings and children's names, but so many Australians declared themselves to be Jedi that the atheists complained it was throwing off their numbers. True story. The Harry Potter books have contributed to millions of children loving reading, and those Marvel movies have made over $20 billion. But who cares? We're not doing anything. Geek culture is like solar energy with no solar panels. Could we do more? Could we use these powerful stories to improve our own lives and even save the world? This presentation invites you to explore your relationship with popular culture in a way that will help you be a better human being, even a hero. Who is your hero guide? Mine's Professor X. What would Hermione do? Which characters represent your strengths and weaknesses? Which passages of books or comics function as scripture for you? What would be on your geek altar by adding ritual, mindfulness, and consistency to your engagement with popular culture? You can become more like the heroes you admire. Do you see how this is different than all the humanist groups we've been talking about? Because it hacks the same buttons that religion does. It has specificity. It has rigor. It has something to fight about. This is another proof of concept that I've worked on. The Geek Bible. We can talk about this later, but what is the Geek Bible? The Geek Bible is an anthology of texts of popular culture brought together in such a way that they wield the power of Scripture. I even got around intellectual property. Indexing. Just make everything an index, not content. Traditionally, the Bible and other books of world Scripture have inspired, motivated, cautioned, comforted, and instructed. They provide tales of heroes and legends. They help process the grief of the past and provide hope for the future. They structure individual lives and bring together communities. In our day, fantasy, science fiction, comic books, and other works of popular culture do an impressively good job engaging with the same issues as religious texts have and continue to do. With the Geek Bible in your hands or on your screen, the stories you already love gain greater power to change your life for the better. So the biggest thing that I want to do is, I want to take the main engines of motivation and direct them toward well-being. That is my goal with humanism. So again, this is the end. How to be a better human, how to be a better humanist. And as we live our own lives, and as we interact with everyone around us, and I have been doing this as a chaplain professionally for over 2 years, is we can meet people where they are, and then we can encourage them to emphasize these humanist values. So life before death. This is a presentation I gave at the hospice conference, and the room was packed. It was really good. I talk about bereavement without belief. Focus on this life. In a LDS church, I proposed the thought exercise, if you, just hypothetically, if you knew your existence would end at death, would you live your life differently? I deeply believe that both religious and non-religious people can say no to that question. I am content living this life on the terms of this life. It will be worth it, even if it were just this life. Get to know yourself. This is one of the funniest things about humanity, is when someone says, what is your favorite book? What is your favorite song? What has impacted you the most? Who are your heroes? These are like college application questions, right? We don't know until we put thought in it. Think about it. Mindfulness and self-care. One of the most important things we can do, and this is what Alain de Botton really focuses on, is think about rituals. For example, just as one example, this coming week, when you wake up, say something you're grateful for. When you go to bed, say something you're grateful for. And once during the day, stop and feel what you're doing. We don't do that. We don't take the opportunity to feel in our body. So for example, when you're washing your hands, feel the water. Feel the soap. Again, put your mind where your body is. And also, when you're not feeling great, take care of your body. Eat a snack, take a nap, and it'll be amazing how much better. So again, in conclusion, I would submit that we humanists need to learn from religion and raise, our humanism to that level, both individually and collectively. Thank you. What's our timeline?
Yeah, we got time. Could you take a few minutes of Q&A?
Yeah, absolutely.
I didn't have one sitting there.
It'll take a week to digest. It's fine.
It was very good. It's interesting that Utah State has a nationally renowned folklore program as a master's, but also as a minor. Mm-hmm. And I think it would be interesting maybe to you look into maybe some of your ideas with them. They're looking, because I've communicated with them, and they're looking to kind of modernize urban tales and folklore, and it translates into a larger, a larger hero-scape, right?
Yeah. No,
these are the same things, centuries after century. It's the human experience.
Yep. And that's Yuval Harari makes the central claim, and he defends it, is that our ability to imagine fiction is what makes humans successful. And I think that in our current era, especially here, is we actually have an emotional relationship to rationality. Just think about that, especially ex-Mormons. Our religion dumped us, and so we want our new partner to be stable, and so we relationship with science. But we humans are non-rational, so that's why I love social science. Screw back there, Bob. We can also talk as we mingle, but any questions or comments? Yes.
In my experience, one of the things I'd say about humanists, which isn't always a good thing to say about them, is that a lot of them are armchair humanists.
Yeah.
And like you say, herding cats. And at the conferences I went to for the Center for Inquiry and AHA, I met people who they didn't belong to any of the organizations. They found out about the conference. They came because they like the ideas, but they're not joiners. And I think that's one of the problems we have. And when you look at religion and humanism and you show how few, at one of them they had this funny kind of thing. They had a pie chart, and it showed how much money the various religions around the world put into, doing stuff.
Yeah.
And then on that pie chart they showed how much humanists did, and it's this great big pie chart. And down in the corner there's this little square that's humanism.
Yep.
So that's one of the problems we have, basically, is being so few amongst.
Yeah. And again, I really genuinely believe that humanists do have the best ideas ever, but we're not doing the most good. And we need to, Jonathan Haidt, you're probably familiar with him. He is a scholar of psychology, religion, and politics. He's very busy. He wrote The Righteous Mind. And I'd love to talk with him sometime because I strongly believe that the most powerful and influential group in the world right now are progressive members of conservative institutions. This is one reason why I want to join the military. And kind of move through the world as a humanist minister, even though I know that would make some people uncomfortable, but it's like you have to play the religious game, you know? But it's important to me that I'm an explicit humanist as humanist, you know, not like the almost groups. Yeah.
So religion for a developed country such as us is a completely different concept, or can be, to some of these emerging countries that have a much greater poverty and a much more, it can be here if you're kicked out of your group, although it can have devastating effects, it's inconvenient.
Yes.
In a third world, in a country that has more poverty and more single religion, it's deadly.
Yep.
Also, religion provides and the conversely, religion provides a security.
Yep.
And it provides a participation in a power. You are giving power to. Granted, it's a religious individual, so there may be some. We can go religion versus politics, but you are giving. You something that you associate with has a voice. How does what you're proposing about moving in and trying to replace religion? How do you affect that? How do you present that? How do you replace those needs that those individuals would have?
I mean, that's a question of critical mass, and we can only serve in our local communities. And as I said, I don't have any pretensions. Like, I'm not trying to replace religion. I am trying to provide an alternative product that can function at the same level. And with all seriousness, my hope is that I have established communities by the time the global infrastructure breaks down. It's apocalypse church. No, I'm totally serious. Because when, within 10, 20 years, it is not, the global economy is not going to function the way it is right now, and we are going to go to local communities. Like, we are going to have to focus on our local communities, and religions are going to be the best game in town. But again, I'm hoping to just provide another model. So what I want to do, again, I don't care what people believe or do, I just want them to maximize their well-being. So one of the things that keeps me up at night, just kidding, it doesn't, but listen to this one. The least logically plausible beliefs are the most psychologically powerful. So in the book American Grace, the authors talk about, this is Soul Searching, which is a sociological study of American teenagers. And they concluded that what we believe is called moral therapeutic deism. Unless you were raised in a fundamentalist religion, like we are here, religion is just generally, or belief in God, there is this cosmic being who wants me to be good, will help me when needed, will leave me alone otherwise. That's super healthy. That's really, really good. Alternatively, belief in the afterlife is only negative. Belief in the afterlife is nothing but an avoidance mechanism. There's no benefit to it. Except as a coping crutch, which, if you need a coping crutch, great. But that's been interesting as a hospice chaplain. Yeah, people are going to hang on. I mean, the only thing I can do is design a product. And so what I would do in those instances, because most religious growth is in the global south, as you know, is I would advocate in an interfaith way and try to make Christianity, Islam, and all of the religions their most humanistic aspects of themselves. Does that make sense?
So I guess where this came from was the question that I wanted to ask.
Okay.
Get there, is that the leaders are who we also have to address. Because the leaders are the ones that are putting out You know, they've built an infrastructure. They know how
Yes.
to get people to believe in them,
Mhm.
and they have their own goals.
Yep.
They're not necessarily the goals we're talking about here.
Exactly.
Some have the delusion that what they're doing is leading that, but most, I don't have that much faith in humanity to think that most people, when given that level of
Oh, they're
power-
all deluded. I mean, they all believe their stuff. And so this is where you need to play a consultant role and put spinach in the brownies. And what someone tried to get a mega church to hire me to revise their marriage program, and I would have done a really, really good job. They didn't pick it up, but this is where what you do. I'm working with a nonprofit called Inside Circle that is unbelievable in reforming the prison industrial complex. And what they do is they just do the people in charge's job better. That's what you do. You just make them look good. And so you present a proposal. Mark Ruffalo, I call him the Credible Hulk, has white papers for every single state on how to shift over to green energy. This is the kind of stuff you do. You just say, this is how to solve all of your goals. You're in communication, so as humanists, we can go to the religious leaders and we can say, what do you want? And then we can create a humanist-friendly way to do that, and we can say, how about this? Does it pass? And it needs to feel familiar. So it's a really good question. Yeah.
Sorry,
Thanks for being here.
don't know a whole lot about humanism, so this is really interesting to me. But I'm just curious, what is your take on the connection, or is there any connection between humanism and politics and political movements, or is that a totally separate?
I mean, this is really interesting because politics is a near religion, and it has aspirations of humanism, but it has currently been overtaken by consumerism. I mean, that's what I would say. Like, our consumerist ideology is the dominant one. Like, economic growth is our current idol that we are sacrificing literally the world to. Has anyone heard of the documentary The Family?
Yeah.
Have you watched it? I still need to watch it. And it talks about the religious network of like pastors and stuff and the connections they have to politicians. Currently, the United States has almost no religious violence because we alienate atheists. Like, that's the function. Theism are the insiders, and atheism is outside, which is why it's so difficult to be non-religious. Does that make sense? So politics should be providing the safety net. This one atheist had a really great answer. What is the greatest danger to religion? And he said, socialized medicine. And that's what I would say to my students when we were talking about the future of religion. I said, if you happen to want religion to become less powerful, if that happens to be your agenda, I said, the only thing you can do is you have to care for human needs without it. It's that simple. So again, politics at its best is people speaking up for their needs and then collective action to meet them, right? I mean, that's the idea of politics. But again, currently with lobbyists and everything, but again, politics is a humanist
Like
near
democracy,
religion.
you're saying.
Politics in general, all of it. Because even monarchies get overthrown if, like, we all have breaking points, you know? And so really government is an institution it's a cultural technology of collective action. And usually it functions through exploitative hierarchies, but it still works. It's better than hunter-gatherer tribes killing 30% of us, which violent death is 30% in hunter-gatherer. And that's also why left-handed people exist. I'm serious. The more fistfights there are, the more left-handed people there are. Because you can't anticipate. Anyway, that's a tangent. Anything else? Yeah.
I'm curious if you've heard anything from the organizers of FedEx about your proposal.
I never heard back, unfortunately. So it's already happened. So I didn't get like a rejection or anything, but I'll submit again for spring or whatever it is. Or is it? I think it's twice a year, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'll try to do the bigger one. Hopefully I'll get some feedback.
Thanks, Jared. That was very good. I learned a lot. All right, well, we have refreshments in the back. Again, want to thank Jared for coming down and delivering this. I'm sure you'll have some people who would like
Yeah.
to have the information. You can disseminate that wherever
Absolutely.
you like, or
Yep.
whatever. Otherwise, we'll see you guys at the picnic if you can make it. And next month on the 12th, I believe, Thursday the 12th. Hopefully, we'll have the sisters.
Can't be, this is the 12th, so it can't be the 12th. It's going to have to be the 10th.
Maybe it's the 10th, the second Thursday of October, whatever that
That's
is.
what I had in mind.
Maybe I did.